white-tip reef shark in the waters of Communal Island. An angry damselfish fighting off a snapper. And here is an emperor fish and a jack hunting together. Finally, we have a crazy rockmover wrasse taking apart the coral reef. Is this even legal? And look at this bizarre fish. Don't miss this. We have a golden damselfish here, Amblyglyphidodon aureus, and this fish is angry. Now, a damsel is supposedly a young, petite female of noble descent, and these damselfish are the opposite. They are hooligans. They are aggressive little fish, and this one almost punched my camera. Now, what is going on here? Of course, the fish is breeding. So what we see, this bush-like structure in the background, this is a black coral, which is essentially a soft coral, and they form these big bushes, and on some of the dead branches, these damselfish lay their eggs. And then they have a very limited sense of humor if somebody comes close. And here it is chasing off a juvenile midnight snapper. And that snapper is probably at least 20 times in body mass, but it doesn't care. It's so eager to defend its nest. So you can see this whip coral here, very closely related to the black coral, and there's this film on it, and that's the nest. These are the eggs, and there are more snappers coming and more fighting. So if you are calm enough in the water, underwater, as a scuba diver, then you will not disturb the fish, and you will be able to see behavior like this. You also see that the dorsal fin parts of the time of this fish is really spread out, and this generally in bony fishes is a sign of aggression. So if you have a fish in your aquarium like a cichlid and then they spread their fins like this, it means they're angry. So yeah, this damselfish is not having a sense of humor here. So here you can see the eggs. You can see this layer on this whip coral, and each of these is gonna turn out to be another angry fish in the future, hopefully. So here you see the same structure on the whip coral, I apologize, on the black coral. Very similar organisms, these two corals, and there was a little breeding colony even. So in this big bush here, there were probably 5 or 6 of these damselfish breeding together. Quite interesting too. Is this cooperative breeding? Maybe not. What you can also see, of course, in the stretch of the black coral, which is covered with eggs, there are no more polyps. So that little piece is dead. I'm not sure if they find a piece of dead coral or if laying the eggs kills the coral polyps on that stretch. The whole, the coral as a whole is fine. So, what an episode here. This was our fish behavior episode number 1, but it's even going to get more spectacular and more interesting in our next episode. Now, if you think of an apex predator in a coral reef, rightfully you will think of a shark. And here in Communal Island, off the coast of Cebu in the Philippines, we did see sharks, white-tip and black-tip sharks. But there was even more interesting hunting going on. So the fish with a kind of elongated head, that's an emperor, and there is a jackfish associated with it. So this is a really fascinating type of fish behavior, that you have fishes of quite different species which roam the reef together and they hunt. So sometimes you see behavior like this, where you see a jack and a moray eel, where the moray eel goes in the crevices and the jack, is in the water column. But here, both the emperor as well as the jackfish, they're both, are fast swimming, explosive midwater predators. So there were examples of this on our days of diving in Somilon, where we did not only see a pair with one each, but we saw groups of several jack fish and a emperor, and there's also, which is another species of jackfish, there is a giant trevally, I believe. And so these hunting associations really, to me, they show, what complex, what cognitively advanced animals these large reef fishes are. So really cool to see that. Again, it took quite a bit of skill to be so calm in the water that the fish would come really close and I could film them, and they would not see me as a threat and take off. Now, when it comes to cooperative coral reef fish behavior, there's nothing to observe quite like the rockmover wrasse, which you can see here in the center. This is this dark gray fish with the light gray head and its hang-on. So this rockmover wrasse is probably about 30 centimeters in length, big adults, and what they do, they don't actually move proper rocks, but they move coral rubber, and in this case they even move living coral. So why are they doing this? What is the benefit of a coral reef for small animals? Well, it's the rugosity. It's the fact that a coral reef provides this intricate three-dimensional structure. So there are lots of hiding places here for smaller animals. And the rockmover wrasse knows this. And so it digs through the coral reef. And here it's actually taking apart live corals. I mean, somebody really should, raise awareness that this is not okay. So, and then underneath there will be probably small fishes, and there will be invertebrates, worms, mollusks, and the rockmover wrasse has pretty powerful teeth, and then it's going to feed on these animals which it finds underneath. Now, all the other reef fish are not stupid. So we have an angelfish here, and there's another wrasse, and there is a goatfish in the front, and all of this hangers on, and they are aware that these rockmover wrasses are such excellent diggers, and then they are also eager to get stuff which is underneath the coral cover. So here there's a regal angelfish, the one with the stripes, and a three-spot angelfish, the yellow one. There are two other species of wrasses now in the front. That was a goatfish. So there is quite a number of different fish, and there are quite a few different fish species. And so in this case, the rockmover wrasse, what you just saw, had enough. So it normally doesn't mind so much that it has these hanger-ons, but sometimes when they come too close, they would probably grab a prey item which the rockmover wrasse was hoping to get himself or herself. In this case, the wrasse is angry, and it gets them to leave, right? It charges at them. So again, we have a very complex type of reef fish behavior here. There is really no way of believing that fish are stupid. And if you just see fish exclusively in the fish market and in the seafood restaurant, you would probably come to the conclusion that they're just these dull animals with eyes which don't look like mammalian eyes, and then you're anthropomorphizing. So your cat and your dog with the cute eyes, they must be clever, and they must have all these feelings, and they must have intelligence. But for fish people, don't draw this conclusion because they don't look like us. But, you know, when we're looking at behavior like this here, you know, we're looking at this cooperative hunting. Now, what you can also see in these recordings, there's a cleaner wrasse approaching. So some reef fish have a lot of parasites in their bodies and on their bodies, and then these cleaner wrasses are specialized fish which remove the parasites. So, you know, they're in parts of this footage, there are two really interesting reef fish behaviors happening at the same time. So nobody, in my opinion, who sees this can keep thinking of fish as this stupid automata, as this, you know, eating machines which just serve the purpose of growing to a certain size that they can be fished out and eaten. So I hope you enjoyed this footage of the rockmover wrasse here, and there is more interesting stuff. And let's go check out the convict fish. So these fish are Pholidichthys leucotaenia, and they're sometimes called the convict blenny or goby, but they're neither. Actually, their closest relatives are the cichlids, and if you're a fish tank keeper, you might know cichlids from South America or from Africa, or there's some South Asian cichlids. And what is striking, a lot of these cichlids have interesting reproductive strategies, and same thing with the convict fish here. So the convict fish juveniles, they feed on plankton and then they feed the adult. They end up regurgitating that plankton into the mouth of the adult, which lives in a burrow. So I have very little footage of adults, which are rare to find, and there I'm linking both in the description as well as in the cards above to my footage of the adult convict fish. And on this instance in Apo Island I didn't see any. But so this is this very unusual, really bizarre fish social structure where the juveniles take care of an adult which builds a burrow, which is also the home burrow of the juveniles, where they spend the night and where they can retreat to during the day when there is a threat. So sometimes you see these big clouds of these convict fish, and they are also mimics of catfish, but in reality this is probably the most unusual coral reef fish you will see.